liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everybody. And we have a special guest with us tonight, Mr. Chris Melly.
How are you?
Good. And
like a guest, I feel like I'm home, you know?
Yes, I shouldn't call you a guest. You're not a guest any longer. So, is it okay, everyone, if we go right into Chris's report so we can give him his time back?
Yes. Definitely.
Everyone okay with that?
Right.
Okay. So, Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I just want to ask a few questions before I start so I know what people have. Do people have the financial statement, and do they have it in Google Docs, or do they have hard copies? And do you want me to refer to pages so you can write them down, so that way if you want to look at it later on, you could? Any opinions on that?
The audit is in Google Docs.
So what I'll do is I'll reference the pages I'm on, but I recognize in Google Docs it might be tough to get around. So and do the audio of this as well. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go into this, and stop me. Don't hesitate to stop me if you have questions or concerns. First and foremost, we're here to review the audited financial statement as required by the New York State Department of Education. The district is subject to an audit, also under the uniform guidance, which is the compliance audit for the use of federal funds. We're happy to report that the district is in compliance with New York State Department of Education as well as the uniform guidance. The district has been giving clean opinions across the board. We did go over this in the audit committee last week. You know, some housekeeping stuff is, we acknowledge that the board accepted 2021 budgets. That's a subsequent event that we report on, and it looks reasonable, and you expect it to be able to adapt to uncertainties going around. On page, I just want to talk about the reserves real quick. The district has placed on their books reserves. They're on page 33. They're reasonable. They're within the guidelines of New York State Department of Education, and all the reserves are listed on 33 if someone wants to look at them individually. One of the things I like about this financial statement when we started doing this years ago is page 9, 10, and 11. 9, 10, 11, because these can be difficult to understand and read. 9, 10, 11 is really the picture graphs of what's going on, and at a glance, you can see where your money's coming from and how you're spending it. And for a quick reference, you can just look at it and say, oh, I can see what's going on here. Instruction obviously is your biggest cost, plus there are benefits, and your biggest revenue is still property taxes. Charges for services are next, and then federal revenue is third. On page 15 is the statement of net position. I always call your attention to this so that way people don't think you don't have enough money, because post-employment benefits are required to be booked here. So it looks like you have this massive deficit going on. The post-employment benefits, I'd like to remind you that New York State does not allow you to fund them. It's a pay-as-you-go system. And even though it shows you in a deficit position, there's nothing you can do to change that. New York State has not allowed like a sinking pool to start saving for that. So that's why it looks so disproportional. If you look at it, you'll see post-employment benefits. If you take that out, you have a positive net position all the way around. So I just call that to your attention. So you look at that and someone doesn't go, oh my God, we need more money. And because this is an actuarial calculation for the life expectancy plus health insurance cost escalations for potential retirees of the district, for everyone, not just the people who are retired. If you look at page 16, 16 is just at a glance your total revenues and expenses, and your changes in net position of the district. Again, just be careful. It's the same type of warning. Post-employment benefits does impact this, so you try to have that mental subtraction in your head. Hold on just a second. I like page 44 because also it gives you a breakdown of what your assets are, and it's a nice thing to look at. It shows your short-term debts of what the district, obviously the district right now is in a capital project, and we have a band sitting here. But other than that, you have very little debt for a district of your size. And long-term debt's on page 45. Again, when you look at that debt schedule, post-employment benefits is there. And so when you kind of mentally subtract that out, debt here is minimal. Even though you're eventually be taken on a bond, you are still an extraordinarily healthy district. If you look at page 68, 68 is the calculation you have to do from adopted final budget to tax levy. You'll see what you've retained and the percent there. That is what it is. I think you've done a good decision, not knowing. I still don't think there's any. I saw a blurb somewhere today that he might not be doing a 20% slash to the school district, but a blurb doesn't really get it too well at this point. But I still think there's a risk there, because when he tries to balance the budget, it's going to be balanced across everyone's back. So I still think you have a great exposure there. 69 is your project expenditure reports for the capital projects. They're all balanced. Everything's going fine. Again, it does look deficits, meaning that you've overspent. But what happens is the quirk of governmental accounting, a ban isn't considered revenue, if that makes any sense to anybody. So it looks like you've overspent. Once you do your bond, this will wipe out and be a positive, and you'll be fine. So I don't want someone to get alarmed that this negative has a meaningful event to you at this point in time. Once you place the bond in place, this will all wipe away. Page 70 is really the capital assets of the district and what you have invested and notes and loans against it. And you have your net assets right there. I had to say I had a faux pas that Denise caught. It's been a long time since I've changed a financial report after I've issued it with numbers. We had a typo in our schedule. If the audit committee remembers, I said we had one deficit in the extra classroom. I said it in public, and I had to say in public that we goofed it. Denise caught it, and there was no deficit. It was all taken care of throughout the year. So she did do it, and we were happy to change it when she pointed out that we have a formula error. So thank you, Denise. Our goal, and I like that she reads.
Chris, what was that one, Chris? What was that deficit that you were?
One of the clubs had a small couple $100 deficit.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you off the top of my head. I can't tell you exactly which one it was because I fixed it, so I don't have it in front of me. But it was a formula error in our Excel spreadsheet that added it wrong, and that's why it was that way.
Thank you.
Says, I know I fixed that, and she was right. And I thank you for your diligence, because they are your financial statements, and looking at them, it makes me happy when someone looks at them like that, because you're just looking for a way to make sure you put out the best numbers possible. And I appreciate it. But again, I said it in public that was a deficit. I had to say in public that we were wrong.
Well, the public was an audit committee, so I didn't really want to call that out. I could see what happened.
Right, but still, I know. But I just wanted to thank you. You took time to read it. Some people don't, and I thank you for that.
Well, thanks.
This year, I have to commend Denise, Joanne, Allison, Nicole. They did a phenomenal job. I think you're all aware that we had a better answer is we had inconsequential entries, and there was only a couple of them. So, that is a real, I'm sure some of you, because you've been with me for a while, know what years ago it used to be like. And to come down to having minimal entries, it is, I'm so proud. I want to commend you all. Thank you very much, because they work very hard, take direction very well, and Denise takes this very seriously. So it was just a wonderful way to close down this audit, to say we barely had anything. So it was just excellent to see the growth, and having Denise disseminate her knowledge to your staff. That was the key here, and she really did that in spades. Your staff has learned a lot, and they learned their jobs, and instead of always asking Denise for the answer, they're learning how to find answers and her confirming it. So they're all working together nicely, and it's great to see it. And it's representative in the fact that they want to do a good job. And again, your books were closed quite well, so it's a nice place to be. It's been a long time coming, and kudos to the business office. And honestly, that's it. And not because it really was a beautiful year. Unless there's questions, I don't have much else to say, because it was excellent. There was no big things. There was no stumbling blocks. everything was just fantastic.
Chris, I have
So it's Ann. I have a couple things to say. First of all, I want to thank you and your coworkers for working in the conditions that they did when they came into the building. I know it was very difficult for everybody, but everybody adjusted well.
Yeah.
And I congratulate our team for doing such a great job on our books during these unprecedented times. We still came in well.
Okay.
And finally, again, I know we've talked about it over and over and over again, but I beg someone to come and give us a hard time about our fund balance, because right now, I mean, that's what's keeping us afloat. And it's very scary because I don't think we even have enough in there to keep us afloat. So, very scary time. So I appreciate everything you've done. I thank you for your honesty and finally something without any findings. It makes me so happy and so proud, especially this year.
I mean, truly, it's been a long time coming, and to be here, I just can't tell you how happy it makes me.
Yeah.
We'd get here.
So thank you so much.
Yep, thank you. And I like the fact that Denise has really tried to make the staff independent, so that way, if someone stumbles, there's someone to help pick up the pieces, because life happens to people, and you want to make sure that you have checks and balances, and you have an office that does it now, and I'm really, really excited about it.
Does anyone have any questions or anything else to add?
I have a question.
Sure.
It's Gus. Once again, I think every year I ask you this question. If you were to give us a grade that we all understand, what would be the grade that you would give the district?
Oh, definitely an A. Truly. And a gleeful one at that.
Excellent.
Truly. I mean, I couldn't be more happy. Denise has a great temperament, is that she's not afraid to push back. And just to blankly say yes to the audit team isn't healthy either, because what if we have an error in judgment? And the fact that she pushes back and we have dialogue, and I can't express that enough. And sometimes dialogue is heated and not heated in a bad way, but just, you're emotional and you're trying to get your point across. But the fact that she's not afraid to have that dialogue is what gets you to where you are today. And, I think that's just a great thing. And it really propels where you are, why I say A.
Excellent. Very good. Congratulations to the entire team. Very nice.
Yeah. I can't even.
Thank you.
Hey, Ann?
Yes.
Ann? Jimmy here. Chris, thank you for all that you do for the district and everybody that worked at the school to help the audit get done. What are you hearing, Chris, in your circles with all that's going on with the state and stuff? And I'm sure you work with other districts, without getting into details from those other districts. I mean, what are you hearing? Like, with, state aid and the rumblings and all that stuff. Today
was the first day I heard rumblings from the district that they heard from someone else. And I say this with so much trepidation. Up until today, it's always been expected 20% slash. The budget's atrocious. He has to balance it, and it was going to be based on the schools and everyone else. Period. Today was the first day that he's leaning towards political suicide, so he's trying to find other ways to do it. But that is not a concrete answer. So I still stand on, the 20% slash has been out there for months at this point.
Okay. I appreciate that too. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Well, thanks, Chris. I appreciate everything.
Thank you, Chris. Thank your team as well. Denise, your team is fantastic, everybody. So thank everybody so much.
Absolutely. It is truly a pleasure. Thank you so much. And, Denise, now that we're through this, I'll FedEx that. Since it's only a few reports, I'll FedEx the reports tomorrow, and you'll get them Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Much.
Bye, Chris.
Bye.
Okay. I believe, Dr. Sheboy, it's on you now for the update on our reopening.
Groovy. So what I'm going to do is I will present my screen now. And Please just let me know when you see it, because I won't really see much on the screen.
It's up.
Okay, groovy. So again, I wanted to make sure that I thank the board for the opportunity to present just some updates on where we are as far as our preparation for a physical reopening. I had a question asked, are we still doing town halls? And when we were directed as a team to bring these meetings to the board, to give the board a biweekly update, we basically have incorporated that town hall concept into these, and we do invite questions through our reopening at HFFMCSD.org web email address. So I'll put that out there to start. So we again continue with our guiding principles to ensure safety and wellness, deliver high quality instruction, be flexible and responsive to changing conditions, and I'll come back to that in a little bit, and to plan for progress, not perfection. I just want to make sure that the board is aware, and that the community who may or may not be watching this live or recorded is just aware that there's 17 school districts in Orange County, and since September 14th, 12 of those districts have had a case of COVID-19 among either a student, faculty, or staff member. I just think it's important for people to know that. It is something that we're very mindful of, and that's where that need to be flexible and responsive to changing conditions comes into play. And again, that's over the last 2 weeks. Some of those have necessitated closing down districts for a day or two. There was a recent closure, and if the board reads the NYSBA clips, every day when you read the clips, you can see some of those are for, in some cases, longer. I believe Monticello, Denise, is closed now through the second week of October, and it's just something that we're mindful for, and that's why we need to be responsive and flexible to changing conditions. So again, we've spent 7 months preparing for our physical return to school, lots of planning, lots of procurement, looking at systems and processes, and making sure that we'll be ready when our children and our faculty and staff physically return to work. So we've been using the green, yellow, and red, and last time, 2 weeks ago, we had some gradient colors. So the gradient colors from last time have now been moved into the regular colors of this time, and there are a few new gradient areas, but we do have more green than we had, and we had less red than we had, and I guess that is the goal. The reds that we have, the true reds, are things that we don't have any control over. And those reds, by their own nature, will not stop our physical return to school. They are a little bit, conceptually deeper, but they by themselves won't stop us physically from returning. But I'm very happy to report that we have more greens. And I'm not going to read through the entire slide, but we're in pretty good shape there. Again, health safety protocols, good shape. Food services, good. Our app is up and rolling with our faculty and staff. We've been using it for the administrative team for about 2 weeks now, with the entire faculty and staff this week. We will roll it out ahead of time with students, because that will do two things. It'll just get people used to the reporting system, but also it'll help us to weed out any dead emails that we may have. While we are going to pull from our student management system, there are occasional dead emails that we need to clean up, and we want to make sure that those don't create false no responses, because no responses are equally difficult to individuals who are no access, because those kids are going to come to school, and then we're going to have to filter through those. And everybody who's been physically back has said those are the greater number of chase downs, so to speak, because you have to stop those kids before they get in and assess them as they come in. So as far as the ventilation concerns, remember we had two parts of that. One was the portable filtration, and those have been deployed in all of the buildings, in the classrooms and the offices, and they are working quite well. Food program went in hybrid. Again, we should be in good shape there. Kathy and her team are working diligently, and we have moved because Denise and Kathy from Airmark worked so hard. We were able to secure funding for all of our students to have access to free meals, not just our free and reduced lunch, but all of them through the end of December. And while we're hoping that that will be extended, it has not been yet. And I do still want to put a plug that our applications for free and reduced lunch were due as of yesterday, the 30th, and individuals can still turn those in because when we go back to a paid system or free and reduced lunch system, we would hate to exclude children from the opportunity to have meals. So gradient green moved. So we have cleaning of classrooms during occupancy, non-classroom spaces. Those are offices and things like that. And we're in pretty good shape. We have identified, alcohol-based wipes that enable us to do that work a little bit easier. It's a little bit more expensive, but timeline-wise, we can get in and out of spaces in about 3 minutes. We did fill we filled all 4 of the positions on September 17th. People started on the 21st, but one of the individuals has since indicated that they do not want the position. So we will be going and looking forward to filling that other 4th position. Deep cleaning at night, again, we're in good shape there. We have our cleaners who will be taking care of the buildings overnight and on weekends and during our deep cleaning Wednesdays. So that's in the gradient green area now. Scheduling 2 programs, hybrid versus online. Again, that is a work in progress, but we do believe that our system allows for it. And I don't know if Dr. Theodore wants to speak on this, but we do believe that our system will allow for both hybrid and our online academy. And a shameless plug that applications for individuals who want to continue in full remote are continuing. And I'll let Andrea talk about that in a couple of slides from now. Concerns about our ventilation system. Again, we have had the ventilation audit done for every room in the district. We currently are waiting for a quote to get the work done that needs to be done at FMES and HFES. That is where we believe the greatest number of rooms are. We will be repairing any and all units. In addition, we are looking at the ventilation exhaust systems on top of the buildings. So we wanted to make sure, and when in speaking with Tom, a lot of districts that have gone through similar audits such as this, they forgot to consider the exhaust systems on the tops of the buildings, and we wanted to make sure we have that as well. Some position-specific PPE we've talked about for a couple weeks now. Just those clear masks, we're expecting those on 20 October, and those surgical type masks that are just a little bit able to filter out a little bit better for individuals who might be working really close to kids or in isolation rooms. Those should be here on the 15th, and we have had all of our nurses outfitted with their N95 masks. So we're in good shape there as far as that goes, but we're in yellow certainly. Substitute teachers, again, we do have substitute orientation scheduled. The question as to how can you replicate a program during a teacher's absence for any reason? How can you during a regular non-COVID environment? We're going to do our best. But the number of substitutes is a concern for all of us. And in the event that we have a large number of substitutes, it will be all hands on deck, including superintendent, teacher aides, principals. We may find ourselves doing things a little bit differently, but we are constantly recruiting. And anybody who's listening or watching this meeting, please, if you want to become a per diem substitute teacher or substitute custodial worker, or if you are a licensed nurse, we do have a couple quotes on contract nursing systems or services. They range, I think, Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, $65 an hour is the hourly rate that we would pay for a contracted nursing service. But if we need it, we would have to pay for that. So then again, this is not yellow. It is not red. It is orange-ish, gradient orange-ish. The uncertainty about faculty and staff requests for accommodations. We currently have worked through all of our known issues, and as we get close to our November 6th timeline for November 9th for return, but November 6th for end of remote, we do envision revisiting some of those accommodations because, since we were remote, it denecessitated some of those. But as we look at coming back physically to school, we will have to revisit some of those, and we don't know what other ones may pop as we get closer, but we will work on each of those, as we've said over and over again, on a case-by-case basis. Some oranges that were oranges and will continue to be oranges, cleaning rooms during occupancy, pick areas, and just make sure that those additional cleaners that we have are deployed to those areas, ready to go, and that we're ready to clean. And again, just cleaning after people use spaces. We're trying to work on a couple creative solutions. Our hope is that everybody takes some level of responsibility for their own space. I do my own, but it is a matter of still working through a couple logistics, but it's not going to be a barrier that I see. Again, just have to work through some protocols and some logistics and have some pretty good conversations. The red things, that gradient, they're gradient. They're not going to change to a darker red or a lighter red. They're just going to stay gradient red because I kind of like it. But we still don't know how well all the protocols that have been established for schools that were really designed for businesses and offices are going to work for schools, and only time will tell. We've watched, again, as I began with some of the schools and some of their systems, but thankfully we haven't heard of mass closings in our area. I'm hoping that will continue to be the case. We are seeing, as most schools are beginning their hybrid either this week or next week, and bringing more kids back. We may see those things change, but time will tell. Again, we do anticipate that there will be some closures, whether it is an individual classroom or an individual grade or an individual building. That only time will tell on those things. I will share that my better half works in a school, and she got a call last night that their entire building was closed for the next 2 days. So we as a district do have students in some of those programs. We anticipate that, and we will have to pivot when that happens. The great thing about our ability to pivot is having really started with our remote wants to during her part of this presentation. Again, can all the guidance and the documents keep everybody safe? We don't know, but we do have a responsibility for public health and welfare. We take that very seriously. It is the number one principle that we have been operating from since we closed, and actually even before that. So we're hoping, and I'll say Frank Sheboy is prayerful that everything that the state has put out and everything that the Department of Health and that the additional guidance from the County Department of Health and that everybody's putting out will keep everybody safe, and hopefully we'll be in good shape. And as Chris alluded to, the funding uncertainty, I'm sure that Ann and Denise will have some comments when we go through our committee reports about some of the conversations we've had over the past few weeks. But this is the great unknown. And I've had a couple people ask, what can they do? And I sent a template out if people want to, write a letter to our federal leaders. I know it's state funding that is critical, but as the state does not have the ability to deficit spend, it's a federal help that's going to have to come through for this. So those are really the updates on what we had, and I'll let Andrea speak for a few minutes on just our transition and how we're moving through October and November with our program.
Thank you, Dr. Sheboy. So at this point, we have last week we sent out a survey for parents to complete to opt their children out of in-person instruction for the upcoming period of November 9th through January 22nd. So if parents previously indicated that they wanted their students to attend a remote-only program in August, when we first sent out this survey, they need to complete it again. And so again, it's the opportunity for parents to opt their child out of in-person instruction for the period of November 9th through January 22nd. We've had a couple of people reach out to us saying, gosh, we're just not sure if we're ready to make that decision. We wanted to hear more information. So we are going to extend the deadline for the survey to a week from Friday, which is October 9th. This way, folks will have some more information. So on September 14th through November 6th, we've been in our full virtual learning schedule. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, all students are on a full day school schedule. Looks a little bit different in each of our schools because each school deals with very specific populations that have different developmental needs. The intermediate school actually running two different schedules because of we have an elementary population as well as a middle school population. So each one's just a little bit different. Wednesdays is a day that is asynchronous across the district, and we're using that for time to do social emotional check-ins with our students and also time for the faculty to plan.
And Dr. Tato, if I can just interrupt and interject one thing.
Sure.
So we have had 2 Mondays off, and because we were just starting our program, we technically didn't have the asynchronous Wednesdays. Anytime moving forward, when we are going to keep that Wednesday sacred because of that social and emotional learning piece, as well as the direct connection of children and teachers for small groups or faculty and staff with families. So we are going to keep that Wednesday asynchronous, even if there is a holiday or holidays in a week moving forward. So I just wanted to put that in there. I'm sorry, Ingrid.
No, that's a great clarification. Thank you. And so then as we look forward, we will be in this virtual learning environment and with the full virtual learning schedule until November 6th. The Monday, November 9th, we will start the hybrid learning schedule, and students will be assigned to a maroon or gold cohort with, again, as we went through with our virtual town halls previously, students in a maroon cohort will be attending school on Mondays and Tuesdays and physically in the buildings. And then Thursday and Friday will be virtual or asynchronous days. Teachers will have time to touch in with students on those days, but by and large, Thursday and Friday will be asynchronous days. Gold students assigned to the gold cohort will be the reverse of that, where Monday and Tuesday will be their virtual or asynchronous day, and Thursday and Friday the students will be in school. Wednesdays will remain asynchronous, as Dr. Shiboy mentioned, so that, again, we're engaged with the students' social and emotional learning, checking in on their well-being, and being available to small groups of students at that time.
Andrea, can I just ask you a question?
Sure, absolutely.
I just want to make sure that I heard you right. So in the maroon group, if I'm in the maroon group, I go physically to school Monday and Tuesday.
Correct.
Wednesday is the asynchronous group where you have the CCT in the afternoon if you're a high school student. I'm sorry, my brain is programmed for high school because I have a high school student. And then on Thursday and Friday, they will follow their same schedule online all day long.
Yes, well, each school has a slightly different schedule. So at the high school, that is exactly what it will be. Okay. But the elementary schedule is slightly different. as is the schedule for the intermediate school, depending on if it's elementary or middle school. So the teacher that we are going to be updating the reopening plan with the specific schedules. Again, we had taken them out to avoid confusion with the full virtual schedules, but we will be putting the virtual schedules back into the reopening plan.
Okay. I thought I heard you say that the Thursday and Friday would be asynchronous, but it's synchronous.
Again, it's different for the two it's different for different for the different grade levels and the different buildings. It may not be a full virtual schedule on Thursday and Friday for the elementary school, for example, but it will be asynchronous schedule, and there will be time when those teachers will be, checking in with the students. But it won't be the same. It wouldn't be developmentally appropriate for our elementary school students to join when there's a physical class in session in the school. So at the high school, students who are attending virtually will be joining their peers in the classroom in a full virtual schedule, but in the hybrid schedule. So the teacher will have students in the classroom and students virtually simultaneously. That wouldn't be appropriate at the elementary level for kindergarten, first and second graders.
Okay.
So their schedule will look a little bit different.
So can I ask for the students who are opting out at all levels, what will their day look like or their week look like?
So again, that varies by building. For the students who are opting out at the high school, they will continue with the full virtual schedule that they have now, and they will be joining their classes. So if I have chemistry first period, I will continue to attend my chemistry class first period virtually, where if somebody's in the maroon cohort and they have not chosen to opt out, they will attend that class at the high school.
Okay.
So their class their schedule will remain the same. There's slight variations with the two other buildings, again, just because it wouldn't be developmentally appropriate necessarily to run the classes that same way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the principals are going to be reaching out with more information, as will the teachers, as we get closer to that date. We really want to extend the survey a little bit longer and reach out to anyone that indicated their preference for the virtual learning schedule in August, and we want to make sure that they understand they need to complete the form again. So we really want to make sure that we've reached out to everyone. We currently have, I think, 134 responses on the survey. So we will leave that open for another week, though. And then once we have that information, we'll be able to really start to reach out to families and put a firm plan in place. And then we'll follow that survey up with a couple more surveys, one specifically about transportation, so we can gather more information about how students will be going to school. Will they be driving will they be riding to school with a parent and the parent will be dropping them off, or will they be taking the bus? So again, we'll have that information. So that's where we are right now. And once we, like I said, once we've closed the survey, we'll have additional information and we'll be able to finalize those plans, because it will look slightly different for each school and the different grade levels.
And we have been in contact with West Point Tours, and they're well aware of our timeline for gathering information, because they're going to need our numbers, even just our max numbers. Even if families say that they are, that they're going to deselect or self-deselect out of transportation, we still need to account for them in the event of emergencies. So we're looking forward to working close with them again on the details of our routing for our return to school. And we'll reconnect with Jay and Bob Brisman in short order once we have the data that we have. So again, just a refresh on where we've talked about, or what we've talked about in regards to our classroom and school environment. Our goal has been, and it's our requirement actually, to keep class sizes small to help maintain social distancing, and that's the reason for that hybrid model. We will be requiring face masks or face coverings, that's what we'll call them. We will allow for mask breaks, which are both scheduled as well as at teacher discretion, as well as during meals. We start to think about, well, when in a classroom could a child have their mask off? Well, but if they're doing a writing assignment silently or taking a test and they're not speaking, children actually could probably take their masks off there, and that is seen as a best practice in a lot of the literature, because if you're not talking, you're not putting out the droplets as much. So, the teachers will have discretion to do those things, as well as scheduled mask breaks. When and where possible, we need to minimize student movement, which is the reason why our program in K-8 is actually really tight to those anchor spaces, and not reusing rooms wherever possible is necessary at the high school. We will continue to encourage frequent hand washing and hygiene and teaching hygiene, and encouraging everybody to keep themselves and their space clean with that idea of personal responsibility. Emphasize that grades count. This is real work. This is real work, including homework and assignments and tests and quizzes and things like that. And that attendance counts regardless of the instructional model. I've heard from the principals that attendance has been pretty strong as far as their groups, and hopefully when they give their reports, maybe they can just talk a little bit about, what they've seen. I've seen low to mid 90% for attendance, and that's what we need to have. We need our kids engaged. We need them back in school, but until then, we need them engaged. And again, it's just important for us to all be pulling in the same direction, keeping one another safe and focused on learning. So at the last meeting, we did go over some considerations and some discussions about athletics and what that was going to look like. We were all very much aware of the governor's pronouncements, as well as New York State Public High School Athletic Association, as well as some of the work that the Section 9 COVID Task Force did, and then recommendations by the Section 9 Athletic Council that winter sports would begin on November 30th, and then fall sports beginning in March, and spring sports in May. There have not been a lot of new developments. Most schools, again, I'll go back to what we're seeing in the region. Most schools are waiting to begin any sort of even off-season workouts and things like that until their students are back together in their hybrid model. There was concerns about transportation and equity and participation, and those drove a lot of the decisions at the NISFA level, as well as Section 9. Then we were told that the Department of Health for the state would be putting out some guidance for schools as we put together our own return to play plans. So for about 2 weeks, we've been waiting with bated breath for something that was supposed to be out 2 weeks ago. And it has not, to my knowledge, and I did check yesterday, been released. So we will continue to develop our own return to play programs and guidance, hoping that whatever we put together will ultimately be in alignment with that of the Department of Health, because that has been the name of the game that we've dealt with since April. Is we start to put together ideas and plans, and then guidance comes out that is contrary, or one level of guidance comes out that says X, and another level of guidance comes out that says 143, and X and 143 are obviously, one's a numeral and one is a letter, so that it kind of creates confusion. That is the one of the greatest frustrations for everybody, is that we've been dealing with a fair amount of confusion as far as our guidance. And I don't know, again, if Coach Crow wants to add anything on this, but again, I did put just a bullet here because there's not a lot of updates. There's just, in addition to NISFA's return to play, DOH, we continue to wait for that guidance. We continue to work on our return to play programs or plans without that guidance.
And we got that, just so everybody knows, the next day after our last meeting, that Friday morning, I think it was, we received the email saying that the New York State Department of Health said that we have to go by their specific guidance as well for how we're going to return to play. But I got the impression we were going to have that in a day or so.
Yeah, that was the impression that I had received. Yep.
This
And
is
then the county,
ridiculous.
the county Department of Health even advised that we should wait for that guidance before we do anything. And I know that not every school has done that, but we've most recently been given the guidance. Well, just use the NISFA until you get that guidance. So it's like
I have been using the NISFA one to create our return to play, but right now it's on hold. I do have a sectional meeting on Tuesday, and maybe we'll get some additional information then. But at this point, I have no new information at all. The only new information I have actually was they did move basketball to a high-risk sport, which I think most of you knew. So any sport that's high risk that would be a winter sport, they can start practice on November 30th, again, with specific guidelines, but there will be no contests until we get word that we're allowed to. So that would include basketball is the one sport that's included there.
Yeah. Thanks, Debbie.
Yep.
So again, our next steps and questions, this is where we've been leaving off. Again, the board has directed the team to put together a biweekly update for our progress towards bringing our red to green. Those 4 areas that are in that gradient red, they will not turn to green, but they will not be the barriers that keep us from returning to school. We will continue to do these updates at board meetings. So our next board meeting is the 15th of October. It is scheduled for 6 p.m. We will continue to meet and plan and work towards getting our children back to school. And as always, we do welcome questions at our email at reopening@hffmcsd.org.
The one thing I wanted to share at this point, right currently, unless something's changed in the last 5 minutes, we don't have any questions this week.
That's correct.
Still true, Andrea?
Yeah, I'm looking now. Yep.
Yeah, that's still correct.
So right now we don't have any questions, but the board talked and discussed, and after our last board meeting, and going forward when those questions come out, because we are very slowly moving, and I'll talk about it when it's board comments, about wanting to move towards some sort of normalcy at our board meetings on how they would get back when we're able to go back in public. And in person. And that being said, going forward, we will be reading who submitted the questions, so no one feels that their questions are being left out. We'll read who submitted the question, and we will read the question. As long as, again, it's an appropriate question, we will read it as it's been submitted, and then we'll look to the appropriate person to answer it. So that'll be our format going forward. That's more news for the community and the people that'll be submitting the questions.
So
thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes my reopening update.
Do any of the board members or anyone on the screen have any questions for Dr. Sheboy or Dr. Teodoro on the reopening? I think it's come a long way, and I appreciate all the work and effort and time that's gone into it by all the administrators and teachers. Okay, this is great.
Yeah, we definitely want to acknowledge the association. Teacher Association has been very good about helping us to identify areas where we just needed to put a little bit more detail. So they've been great at that. So, yep.
That's great. So next, if I'm not mistaken, is board comments. And there was just a few things I wanted to touch on. First, today in the mail from Marissa, we got the board and administrator for school board members newsletter, and there's really some good stuff in there. So please, board members, please make sure you read it. It's talking about board members being the advocate for the financial health of our district, understanding about, what do I need to support the board's official stand? Read that. There's some very interesting information in there, and also about understanding the double-edged sword of social media. And also I did send out a link to everybody on something that came out in the President's Forum. And the man was just full of knowledge because he had been a board member and he had also worked in a school district. So he was and he works now at I think a college or a university. So he knows all the ins and outs and all the things that could come up. So he just gave a lot of very good suggestions, I think, for us as board members. So those are a couple things I wanted to share. The other couple things that I wanted to touch on, as requested by us, the board, Dr. Sheboy has set up meetings with some of our elected officials, a number of our elected officials, and we're not going to stop, but we're getting nowhere fast. I mean, I just don't want anyone, they don't have answers yet. They're trying. They're just as frustrated as we are. They do not have answers yet. And I don't know if Denise or Frank want to add anything to that, but did you feel the same way on the calls that we were on?
Yeah, I actually believe that that's probably the best description, is that they don't have solutions. The state officials certainly don't, because they know that they can't deficit spend, and they're hoping that a federal fix will come through. And right now we continue to hear that, there's movement on the HEROES Act, or there's not movement on the HEROES Act, that people are waiting to after the election. And unfortunately for us, it is very difficult to continue to operate with uncertain financials. But we have no choice. But it is not easy. And again, if anybody wants us to send them just a template letter, and we'll even, Marissa could even send you the addresses of all of our state and local and federal leaders that many of the board members sent things to, I sent to. We'll send you a template. We won't tell you what to say, but we'll certainly send you some information.
And Sean Patrick Maloney's representative, Frank, I couldn't make that call, but Frank and Denise met. And also today was Gillibrand's office. And basically, they're welcoming information from us, important information that Frank and Denise are going to forward to them of, how much have you spent already on COVID? How much, where do these numbers stand? Because at the end of the day, our district is different. And also on our Impact Aid meeting, our NAFIS meeting, I was really I was in shock. I was texting these two. I was texting them because they were like, thank you so much for our funding. And we got new playground equipment. Thank you so much for our funding. We were able to get some more Chromebooks. Thank you so much for our funding. We hired 3 new teachers. We can offer 3 new specials. And I think that's absolutely fabulous for those districts. And I don't begrudge them one bit, but we need the money to survive. So we made sure that we put that out there because people were putting things out on a chat, and we needed to survive. This is our life, and we need it to keep our district going. And Frank and Denise and myself made it very clear to Gillibrand's office today, and I'm sure you did the same for Sean Patrick's, that, guys, we're in a lot of trouble if we don't get some help real soon. And if we don't get our money, or if something happens in January and after the election and the state decides to hold back money again, we have to let people go. So they asked us, how much does each $1,000 or $100,000, if you didn't get $200,000, how many teachers would you have to get rid of? If you didn't get 2 million, if you lost your maintenance of effort number and impact aid. So we're working all the angles. We're giving them all the information we can get. Roxanne's agreed to help us moving forward because we're trying to hit it before it happens. So we just want to make sure we get to everybody ahead of time so we're not in trouble come January or March or whenever they pull the plug on us. But so we're trying. We're going to continue to meet. We've told every one of them that we'll be back. We'll be back. And every every month or so, we're going to set up another meeting because, persistence, if nothing else. So I just think it's really important that we all know this and that we share it in the community as much as we can as well. Also, the other thing I wanted to touch on is today I met with Dr. Sheboy, Dr. Teodor, Marissa, and myself to start looking at what our in-person board meetings will look like when we are required to have them again. And there's a lot we need to do. There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. There's a lot that needs to be done. So I'm so glad that we met to start kicking it off. Marissa did find out this morning at a meeting that she was on with the other district clerks, I believe, Marissa, that
yes, it was the NISBA annual district clerk meeting.
Thank you. That right now it's looking like the governor is going to extend for another month the use of virtual board meetings due to the increase in COVID and the holidays coming and things like that. So it looks like, but he's not able to do it until the actual date of the so the date was October 4th. So on October 4th, we'll hear that it goes until November 4th. Now, we're hoping that he does it. We have no direction that he's definitely going to. We're hearing that he's going to. So right now we're moving towards being prepared for that meeting, for our next November meeting, not necessarily the October 15th meeting. But some of the things that we need to look at, and this is why I wanted to have a discussion with the board, there's a few options that we can have. Marissa was able to share with us a bunch of different options that different districts in New York State are looking at. And if we feel it's important for the board themselves to be together, we need to find a place in the district that we can all meet, be 6 feet apart, still be able to be videoed with the equipment that we have, and also allow for seating, social distance seating for visitors. For example, Chris Melly, Mrs. Pitt, we need to have at the meetings. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. Our Oxford rep. 27 seats. So we went through the list. So we need 27 seats, and that's not even having, 2 people from the engineering firm if we're going to have a meeting with them, or 3. So we need to be really, we need to keep our eyes open. Frank and Andrea, Marissa they were looking at the auditorium at the high school to see if it's possible, but we need to work with Stefan on that. But if we need to find seating for 27 people, I want to make sure I say this right because I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression. But unless we're having a public meeting like we used to have in the high school library, right, where anyone can come, well, until we can have those back in that fashion, we need to continue to live stream our meetings. So if we need to continue to live stream our meetings, and we have to find places for 27 people to be able to be social distance and still be able to video appropriately so it's live streamed and people can see who's talking and things like that, we're going to have very, very limited seats, if any, for the public. So we'll need to continue with our live streaming, our email where questions can be asked, and we would have to answer those. To me, it's difficult to say you can only have 3 guests, and those 3 guests would have to be the first 3 to sign up to come in to the auditorium. because, or 4 when you spread 27 people out. So it's best for us, I think, to remain with our live stream of the meetings. And once things start relaxing and we're not under so many constraints from the state, we'll be able to go back and we'll be able to open our meeting up to more people. And that's where we can have the community members in. Now, the other option, what some of the districts are doing, Marissa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it is the district clerk, the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, the board president, and the board vice president.
That's correct.
Are in the building, in the meeting, and everyone else is virtual, so you can allow more community members to be there in person. I just don't see that fit working for our community. I'd rather all of us be together talking on the same platform with our administrators, our superintendents, and be able to have conversations, because if there's 2 of us or 4 of us in the room and then 10 community members or 20 community members, it's just, to me, it's just not as effective. I think for our makeup of our meetings, that would make it very much confusing and not as easy flow. But I would like to ask everybody what their thoughts are, if anyone had any thoughts on that, so we can give direction to Marissa, Frank, and Andrea and Stefan to move forward, to start looking for a place for us.
I think it's all or nothing.
Okay. When you say all or nothing, you mean all the board together, and then we'll continue with the live stream until we can open it up to more people in a room, and then we'll start opening it up to the public. When we first start opening up to the public, we still might have to limit it, but I just limiting it to 3 or 4 people, which is what it looks like right now, is just not, if I was a community member, I don't think I'd be too happy about that if I don't get my name on the list first. So okay, Gus, thank you. Does anyone else have any thoughts or opinions on that we could share?
I would agree. I have just one question. What happens if an individual board member finds themselves needing to quarantine for a period of time?
If they what, Faith?
If they find themselves needing to quarantine for a period of time. For example, if I go and see my son at college, which I'm planning to do, he's in one of those do not travel to states, and I have to quarantine for 2 weeks when I get back.
So then you would have to continue to do it remotely, and we will have people. Now, here's the other thing. I have a call in to Margot, and I don't know if you got to talk to her today, Frank. I didn't, but maybe you can ask her this as well. Because let's say I'm not feeling well, or my children aren't feeling well, and I don't feel like I should come to the meeting, but I still want to be able to participate. Can we still have it that I'm able to join remotely because, or Faith is in quarantine? I don't see a reason why Faith can't join remotely.
So currently, the executive order allows for face-to-face and video conferencing.
Mm-hmm.
Regular meetings, an individual can through video conferencing, but the notice is that it would have to be in a place that would be open to the public. So we would have to make sure that that the provisions of the law allow for that, because right now with the executive order that we're under, it does allow for us to be where we are, and we're not, I don't have to publish my address here, and nobody has to put down that Frank Sheboy is attending the meeting remotely, and the public would be invited to that. But in a traditional, in a pre-COVID meeting world, an individual who is a trustee of a board or a governmental agency can participate, but only if due notice is given as to where that person is participating from. So we just have to be careful, make sure that the law says that we can do what we do. So
Okay, thank you. That's a good point. So basically, we have to wait until the new law comes out.
Or at least get clarification from Margot on, is there a change due to this? But yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, any other comments on that? Okay, so it looks like everyone's fine then with it being all of us, Frank, and we'll still live stream. So that'll help you guys a little bit, see if you can find us a place.
Yeah,
That'll work with that.
we did start looking today, and even the pit of the auditorium, the stage of the auditorium, neither of those are big enough to have the members of the board as well as the central administrative team and the district clerk sit in a line or even a horseshoe. So we'll check out the library tomorrow for a different kind of configuration.
Okay.
And we'll see where we end up. We'll find a space. It's just not going to be comfy. And it will be difficult to hear one another. I mean,
that's the bad part. And the other thing is, I asked about if Stefan was way in the back, because we're going to be in a wide range, right? So if Stefan's way in the back, we're going to all look really little. And then he's going to have to constantly be listening to who's talking and then zoom in on them so we can hear. It's going to take some getting used to, and it's going to take a few tries, just like everything else is with this new format. But we'll be flexible.
Maybe we try out the gym.
The acoustics in the gym would make it very difficult for the sound. I mean, it's just sound gets lost there. And plus the gym's an instructional space, and we would have to tear down an instructional space on Thursday to have a new type of configuration, presuming it's not a basketball season meeting. So, okay.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, board comments, any other board comments? I'm sure, no? Go ahead, Gus.
I have a question. This is to Denise. At the previous meeting, Denise, you mentioned that some of the ancillary add-ons at the school are going to be delayed until later, like the ramp in the back and also the auditorium lighting, so they could be rateable in the future.
Auditorium lighting is moving forward. That's one of the change orders that was approved. But we still have not moved forward yet with the ramp in the back.
Yeah, we approved the auditorium, I think the last meeting or the meeting before.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was abatement of the asbestos for the auditorium?
Yes, so that way the work can be completed.
Okay, all right, because there's a couple of other things on the list that would like to be done in the school, especially the elevator going up to the second floor in the B building, access there.
Right, and in the previous board meeting, Frank had discussed that we're going to look into doing a separate project for those items, the back ramp and the elevator. So right now we're trying to concentrate on getting this project done so that we can meet that December deadline of getting it filed.
We have to close this piece out, Gus, so we can get our bonds in place.
Okay, because I would like to add a couple of other items if possible on that list.
Well, you can't add anything that wasn't approved by the voters. So what are you thinking?
Well, the wooded area between the tennis courts and the main school, that needs to be thinned out a little bit because there are a couple of old trees there that are about to fall down. I was also thinking about, I also spoke to a couple of the custodians. They would sort of like a bathroom in the pole barn if possible.
Well, that wasn't in the plans. So, and again, I mean, no disrespect, Gus, but things like this need to go through Tom, through Denise, through Frank. Custodians should not be talking to you about what they want, especially when it comes to this project like this. We didn't have it in the drawings for the pole barn. So it's, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, but we just can't add things to this project. Am I correct?
We definitely can't add them to this project. And the concern about adding anything that is not within the building itself, beyond that EC1, that ramp system, is that we are beyond already the site, the site work allowance for this project. Nothing that is done outside anymore gets any aid at all. And I say outside, I mean the physical building of James O'Neill High School. That's why things like ADA upgrades to that lift system from in the B wing, to go to that one level to the athletic wing is a perfect thing for us to do. It's aidable. And obviously Denise can speak more in detail than I, but you need to do at least $10,000 within the building in order to do any sort of work outside the building. So we know that there is more work that we can do. There's more ADA upgrades that should be done. There's probably some other, real good upgrades to the facility that we can do inside. The minute we start adding more, because remember, EC1 was about $320,000 when it was proposed to us a year and a half ago, to the board, not to us, but to us, but with escalations of even just 5 or 10%, that's going to have to be rebid. That's probably going to come in higher than that number. But if we push that number to $400,000, we won't be able to do any of the work. So that's a concern that we just have to be mindful of. Inside work, if there's suggestions for inside work, we do have some latitude because it was for renovations and upgrades to James O'Neill High School. But I would ask that they go through Tom and the facilities committee, and if we need to have a meeting for that, that is an appropriate mechanism for that. So that's just my opinion.
Okay, well, all right. So my last suggestion, I guess I have to go to the, I would have to approach the people on the facilities committee and recommend the last recommendation.
Well, go ahead.
I was just thinking also, it would be nice if we could also paint the high school, but
actually, I've talked about that with Tom, and that's not something that's that far off as far as our radar, because I agree.
That's it.
Yep.
Do you have any other questions, or anybody else have any other board comments? Okay. Okay, I believe next is for you, Dr. Sheboy.
So yeah, obviously we've been busy with a lot of our reopening planning and meetings about construction and meetings about construction and meetings about construction. But in addition, as Ann had pointed out, we did have the opportunity to attend NAFIS a winter meeting, or I guess it's spring or fall meeting. I don't even know what month it is. But I have starting on Monday, I'll be at NISCUS's fall meeting, and I'm looking forward to that. Everything COVID that you would ever want will be there. And tomorrow, I'm very excited. We have the first county team meeting. We'll remember that I'm one of the 3 superintendents on the Orange County intermunicipal or interagency team, and that has led to a lot of connections for the district. Has led to our backpack program for feeding our kids. Has led to a lot of our resilience training and our Cornell cooperative stuff, and even some of our ADAC support. So I'm looking forward to getting back to some normalcy of just doing that work for the children. So I'll leave it at that. That's me.
Thank you. Okay, so next up, Dr. Theodore.
Thank you. Again, just, we're a month into the school year, and it seems like it just flies in the blink of an eye. But just really supporting everybody to make sure that they have what they need to reach the kids in any environment that we're learning and teaching and learning in. That's really been our focus. Waiting for approval now from our federal grants from Title I, Title II, and Title IV to be approved. That typically happens in October. Denise shared an interesting notification with me today about our CARES Act funding. We are scheduled to receive $156,000 in CARES Act, and it looks like there was some type of interim rule that between New York State and the federal government, and I guess to make a long story short, they're reevaluating the distribution of funds, and we'll have to resubmit our application for those monies. So we'll be waiting for more guidance on that information. And once we see the application come out, we will resubmit. But that's really where things are.
Thank you very much. And again, not to harp on it, but I just need to point it out. This is the kind of nonsense that's going on with the state. I mean, it took us, I don't know how much time to get those applications in. Then we get a measly little bit amount of money where people around us are getting millions. And now we have to redo the applications when we have so many other things that we should be working on. And then they give you deadlines. It's just the most frustrating thing. And it's just, I can't begin to tell you. This is why our administrators and everybody, our principal, everybody's working like around the darn clock. And we're trying to get kids back in school. So I honestly didn't believe her today when you told me that. And then I saw the notice. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the truth. And I really don't think, if I thought it was going to be given out fairly after that, maybe I'd say, okay, it's worth the time. But it's not going to change how they give the money out, I don't think. I don't know. No, it's not. So,
Yeah, that's so.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Ms. Sidera?
Okay, so I'll continue on the good news, not really, but within that notification I sent to Andrea, I also shared with Frank. As you remember, we were talking about transportation aid, and they just came out at New York State ASVO, the state organization that I belong to, has came out and said that, the state looks like they will not be providing transportation aid on services not provided. So I'm waiting for the state aid output reports to be published, which don't come out until about December, to see what kind of hit we're going to take. And then we may have to go back to our senators and stuff and talk to them and the congressmen and say, listen, we need some help here. So
Can you
but I also want to
Can you clarify, you said will not be receiving transportation aid in what respect?
From the services from March, April, May, and June, when we paid a lesser amount to West Point Tours, it's being stated that we may not be receiving this aid. And we just got another notification today that we may not be receiving the aid on those expenditures from 2019-20. I won't know for sure until December when our state aid output reports come out.
Did we pay West Point Tours for non-transportation just because they were not providing due to the virus?
We paid them a lesser amount than what we normally paid because of the contract that we have. We have an obligation to pay that contract, but we negotiated a lesser amount. And I don't have those numbers in front of me right now.
I'd like to see the numbers in writing, not just on the email.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what that means, because she would email
why was the decision made without discussion and peers with the board to okay it or to weigh in on it?
You mean to go back and negotiate with West Point Tours? We knew that. They told
us to pay them
Everybody's
had-
shaking their
we
head.
had
They
a-
told us they were doing it.
We had a discussion where I know it was raised what was in our contract with West Point Tours that would cover a situation where school was no longer operational, and whether or not our contract did not have a provision to protect us in that regard.
And then we had a discussion that they were going to go back and renegotiate to see if they could get some savings out of the April, May, June timeframe when it stopped. And we asked them to please go do that because every little bit would help. So I know that we did that, and we discussed it when they were done, saying they were able to negotiate some savings. I know we had it's not just me, it was done in this forum. I saw Faith shaking her head and Gus. I mean, does everyone else, and Erin remembers it. We talked about it. I'm sorry if you missed it.
Were there
but we-
specific numbers? Specific numbers were never discussed,
No.
to my knowledge.
I don't think we discussed
No.
specific numbers, but we certainly discussed it. And any lower amount at this point, I would congratulate
take.
Denise's office for, being able to get that. As far as the request to see it in writing, I'm sure a lot of it was either discussed by phone or some communication over email or something along those lines. Like, people don't really write stuff down anymore.
No, so I'm sure if Denise can send you the email that would include how much savings we had from it. I'm sure she has that handy. But please send that to everybody, Denise, so we see it.
Right, I will. Yep, I will. I'll
But
work on that
I'm sorry,
tomorrow.
Ned, if that was a conversation that, I know it was had on a board meeting. I know for a fact it was, because we all said, absolutely, any little bit will help.
Right, so let me get this straight.
Well,
David's not
I'd
saying-
like to raise, when we go into executive session, what Frank's or Denise's conversations were, or anyone else with Margot, on the issue of whether there was any provision in the contract, and if there was none, why, and what it is in our current contract going forward. Obviously, that's got to be remediated.
I mean, did you guys look into that yet, or is that for something down the road?
You
My
mean
understanding, go ahead, Frank.
And are you talking about in regards to revising the contract that we have with them, or the
Yeah.
contract that exists?
Well, both, because Ned wasn't sure if it was in the existing contract that we
It
have.
it is absolutely not. There is
Right.
not, and it is currently not in ours. It is something that we have discussed going back to them. The reason, first off, that we continued to pay them is until I think it was early May, we thought we were coming back to school. You can't risk not having your transportation company if you're going back to school. We had to account for that. Jay and Bob were very good about coming back to the district with some lower numbers. What was suggested for us to do was to reach out to them and have them quantify what their fixed versus variable expenses were, because we didn't want to be paying for fuel, for anything that's a variable cost when we weren't having service. So we were actually very fortunate to get that because the contract didn't require them. But it is something that we will continue to work with them because, again, we're remote again, and they've reduced what we're paying currently. So, but we could talk about that further.
Okay, Denise, do you have
Thank you,
anything
Frank.
else?
Yes, just a couple. I just want to piggyback with our meetings with Congressman Maloney and Senator Gillibrand's office. We also did mention about if we did lose state aid, that there's an issue of possibly losing our the I payment for the impact aid due to the loss of maintenance of effort. So they're very much aware of that we may be reaching back out to them as early as December to help us with those issues if needed. And as you know, we are serving all students in the Highland Falls district. And for the month of September, we served 1,800 meals. That's breakfast and lunch included. So I just want people to be aware of it. It seems that on our Wednesdays is our uptick days because Michael McElduff has some things going out of the building to students. So it just seems to be a little bit more. So we're hitting more people. And the other piece of news I want to let you know is if you recall over the summer or maybe even it could be even September, I'm sorry, everything's running together, but I had talked about the health insurance plan was looking at possibly doing a refund, a surplus of health insurance from previous years. So the board of directors on their September meeting has approved to do such of a refund, but it's a refund, a surplus of health insurance. And our district is expected to get back approximately $280,000. So that doesn't go back against the expenses, but it will go into our revenues for the school year so that if something happens and we have a shortfall, that the board would be able to appropriate those funds to use them for emergency purposes. And I'm hoping that we don't get into that situation.
That's great news. Thank you.
Yep. And that's all I have for tonight.
That's great news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. That's 15% right there.
Okay, thank you, Denise. So who from our principals is going to go first?
I'd like to go first.
I pick Robin. There you go.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I just actually have two messages for tonight. The mid-quarter of the first marking period, which is it's hard to believe, at the high school is tomorrow. The progress reports will be released on the student parent portal next Friday, October 9th. And then, unfortunately, due to some unforeseen obstacles, the distribution date for textbooks, student planners, JROTC uniforms and supplies has been pushed back to after school on October 13th. The backup conflict date will be October 14th for those who can't make it on the 13th. Otherwise, things are going well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Who gets to go next? Go ahead, Rachel.
Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry. I wanted to apologize first for not being able to join the last meeting. I had a little emergency with my husband, but he's doing much better now. And the stitches came out. So that's the good news. So I want to, and I didn't get the opportunity to do it last time, but I want to really acknowledge the unbelievably incredible work that our faculty and staff is doing at FMES. They have such strong structures in place for the families and for the kids to be able to access the learning every day. And we've gotten really positive feedback with the work that they're doing. I know it's not easy. I know that the day feels really long for the kids, but they're getting all of the content that's really important for them to have. And I can't say enough how unbelievable the teachers have been through this whole process and how trusting they are, and how flexible they've been. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge them in all of this. So we've had, our attendance rate has been around 93%. So far, it's close to 94% overall since the beginning of the school year. We've ironed out some kinks in terms of students who have been fluctuating in and out. So that's been helpful. And I'll be meeting with the attendance team on Monday morning to just make a plan moving forward for any students who are having extreme difficulty either accessing, getting online, or just coming for any reason whatsoever. So I'll have an update for us at the next time. This morning I attended the OU BOCES principals meeting. Mr. McElduff was there also, and it was a great time for us to be able to touch base with other principals who are already in a hybrid model. So we got to kind of pick their brains a little bit and get some feedback. So that felt really helpful. So we'll have some good information moving forward with our hybrid plan just to iron out the details and the intricacies. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. McElduff?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my daughter literally just unplugged the Wi-Fi at the house, so I had to switch over to my cell phone.
Oh,
So trying to some communication issues at my house, but a couple things just to touch base on. Our attendance is still going strong at HFIS. We're at 93% attendance overall, which is fantastic. When we're thinking about prior to March 13th, 2020, our average attendance was anywhere between 94 and 96%. So we're right around that mark, which is excellent news. Our teachers are doing a fantastic job, and more importantly, the students are coming to class and participating, and that's definitely most important. For the students who we are not able to connect with or we're having trouble getting to classes on time, Mrs. Maldonado, the guidance team, and the grade level teams have been working extremely hard on identifying our students at risk, touching base with the families, having parent meetings, and even going to houses, connecting Wi-Fi, checking whatever we can to get our students up and running. So overall, just a great job by the team. A couple other things, our daily morning meetings, which I want to attribute to our great attendance, have been met with huge success. Our teachers are focusing every morning between 25 and 30 minutes, just checking in with the students and working and focusing on the Positivity Project, which is our social emotional learning platform. And again, that has been met with huge success, and our students are enjoying it, and so are our teachers. So, and then this Wednesday was actually our first faculty meeting for September. We had a couple other things happening on Wednesdays. So this was our first faculty meeting, and it focused primarily around having tough conversations about race and racism with our students. So it was a great and powerful faculty meeting. We had some good conversations and read some great articles, and we're going to continue that work going forward.
thank you. I'm very happy to hear how exciting everybody sounds, and I think everything is going smoothly at the schools as best as it can. And I thank you, everybody, for all their hard work in making that happen. So thank you very much, everybody.
One question to Rachel and Michael. Is there one class in particular that attendance is a problem? Or is it just across the board?
It really is across the board. It's sometimes a particular family or just particular students who are either, they could be new to the district. I'm thinking of one in particular who's just had a really difficult time assimilating and getting everything together. So we're just trying to help that mom. We've called her, we've reached out to her, we've set up time to just coach her through how to get everything on. Or some students who are just having some difficulty getting themselves into the mindset that home is school right now. So it's kind of challenging to help that. So it wouldn't be a particular class for us.
Thank you. Mike, you're all good? There was no response to, okay.
His call dropped.
Okay. Beth?
Yeah, I missed the question. Sorry, I got kicked off and had we're having some difficult times. That it's bedtime.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Beth?
So across the board, things are going well. I've been meeting with our E&L teachers and looking at administering the NICETO and identifying our students, because we do have a longer timeline than we normally do. So we've been meeting to figure that out across the buildings. In terms of special ed, all of our in-district kids are doing well. Our K2 special class is at 13 for the moment. And so we have applied for a waiver, a variance from the state. I did talk to state ed, and we were allowed to add the 13th student pending the waiver. So that was good news. Our OU BOCES students have been in school since, I think, September 8th, and things are going well there. Our Rockland students, who were going to go 4 days starting this week, are only 2 days, and hopefully next week they'll go back 4 days. Transportation's been great. We've had a couple of parents who decided, I'd like my child to go back to school. I don't want my child to go back to school. And West Point Tours and Adeline have been great, just making last minute, changes as need to be made. And on the board report, we currently have 215 students with disabilities between our in-district and out-of-district placements, which is about where we were. Still, a good number, but about where we were last year. So things are pretty stable.
Okay. Thank you. Tom?
I think he just hit the wrong button and disconnected himself.
So while we're waiting for Tom, to reconnect, I want any community members that are still listening and anyone who gets to rewatch this and watch the video, I just want you to hear all the great things that are happening, and school's still going on and the children are learning, and yes, there are struggles, and yes, there's things that everybody's working on, but we are all working together on it. And I just thank everybody so much from the bottom of my heart for working as hard as you are to make it okay for all the children. So thank you. So not quite sure what happened to Tom. Let's see. I just want to see, give him 1 minute to see if he comes back. Here he is. Hi, Tom.
Maybe my daughter unplugged his stuff too. She's on a warpath right now.
Hi, Tom.
I think he looks like he's having issues too because he just dropped off again.
Okay. Well, if he joins, we'll give him the time that he needs when he rejoins. Okay. So, our liaison reports.
Yeah, we don't have a student report, but
we don't have a student report. No. So, policy committee.
So I'm going to need to schedule a meeting. We have a couple things that we're going to have to put out revised policies on. So I do also want to dig back deep into the work we were doing on the full review. So I'll send a few dates out to the committee probably next week for the following week if the board members and committee members are available. We had started in the review of the second draft. We really want to dig through that and get it done so we can have a final draft and then get it fully adopted. So
thank you. I don't believe the Wellness, Health, and Safety Committee has met yet. Am I correct, Faith and Ned?
Correct.
Okay. The Audit Committee, you guys just heard the great news on that. So again, congratulations and thank you, everybody. Keep up the good work. The Facilities Committee, Tom, is Tom back on? I'm on the board docs.
Yeah, he just dropped again.
Every time you say his name.
Okay. Denise, can you ask him to get a meeting going for us, please?
Yes, I will.
The Facilities Committee? Okay. Diversity and equity.
Yeah, so we had a meeting this week. Ann, I think you were there, right?
I was there. It was an absolutely amazing meeting.
Yeah, it really was. We talked about the superintendent conference day. Nicole Glennon is doing an amazing job as one of the, I guess, 5 co-chairs now. We've identified a couple other teachers to take on additional leadership there. Really went through a lot of the information, superintendent conference day, but also went back to refocusing on the diversity and equity plan for the district. So that was the work at the end, and we actually have a meeting scheduled for next week. So I'm looking forward to that. That meeting is scheduled for Tuesday at 3:15. We do have a couple community members who join us, and welcome anybody to reach out if you want to be part of the Diversity and Equity Committee. I think we had 32 people at the meeting, and I know a couple board members couldn't make it who are wanting to be part of that. So we're going to try, we talked it over with Nicole today, even the likelihood of scheduling at least one meeting in the evening each month so that we can get more people to be participants who may be working during the day, not just the board members, but any community members as well. So yeah,
I have to apologize that I couldn't attend, and I even did try to figure out a workaround where I could do it from my workspace, it didn't work out, and I'm back into my office, a regular routine now, and I don't have the flexibility that I had when I was working remotely. So I just don't want anyone to think that I'm not interested. It's just incredibly difficult for me to participate during the workday.
No, I totally get that. And I had a meeting canceled, so I was able to jump on, and listening to the 30 some odd people work together and some of the things that were coming up on the chat. I didn't participate. I sat back and I listened to everything because they were talking about some of the things they did during their superintendent's conference days. But I have to tell you, we have some group of just unbelievable people together that I'm so proud of, and so looking forward to the great things that are going to come out of it. So we'll continue to cover for each other as much as we can. So that one again is good. Now OXPA and NISBA.
I gave an update at our last meeting, even though we didn't do a liaison report. So we haven't had a meeting since then. We have a meeting this coming Wednesday next week. Okay. And of course, it's always open to everyone. The conversation is going to be a presentation by ADAC, and then just some updates related to the convention. So,
okay, great. And then we received some great news from NISBA. I know some of us. I think Faith, you're signed up, right? I'm signed up. Frank is signed up. Was there anybody else? Okay. Well, all our hard work is paid off. Our choir, their recording of when they played at Carnegie Hall. Am I correct? Is that the one?
It might have been Atlantic City.
Oh, Atlantic City. Okay. Yeah. Will be being played during some of the events with the virtual conference. So I'm very excited, and we'll make sure that we're on so we can at least, hear it and participate in that part of it. So I'm very proud to say that. And that is at the end of this month, the end of October. And we will get together before then so we can take in as much of the sessions that we can. But again, like you explained to us, Faith, they'll be available to us for after the conference is over. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yes. And so really in all actuality, because they're going to be available for so long, you could really look at every single session that they have. Yeah. Just not more time. So
great. Instead of running through the halls like lunatics and then getting locked out or whatever.
Locking out. Yeah.
Lock it out because there's too many people. Yeah. Okay, the next is athletics. I know we already talked about that, but I just wanted to make sure Mrs. Crow didn't have anything else that she wanted to share with us on athletics.
I do not.
Okay, thank you for everything you're doing, trying to get a return to play in place for us that'll work. I just have a very funny feeling that we're going to have this great plan in place, and then we're going to get another 45-page document from the state of New York. And I know it's going to happen, but I also know we can't wait. So Thank you. Yep. Thank you for everything that you're doing with that.
And once it's done, I'll make sure I get it to Dr. Sheboy, Debbie Brand, and the board. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Federal government funding. We already talked about what happened at our NAFIS contract and that we're conference and that we are continuing to move forward to meet. Same thing goes for our state funding. We're not stopping. We're including them in our meetings and our conferences as much as we can, our letter writing, whatever it is, because we need everyone helping us at this point. Local government liaison, Jim, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, just real quick.
Thank you.
I know we had talked about it maybe last meeting, but shout out to all the school officials and board members and the Highland Falls Water Department for squaring away that big leak we had, and a shout out to community residents that it was brought up at the last village board meeting that the reservoir is unusually low this time of year because we haven't had a lot of rain. So we didn't put restrictions on, but we had asked community residents to try to avoid, washing your car, watering your grass, stuff like that. I believe the last check of the reservoir was around 57 to 60%. It's at 57 or 60%. So for folks just to kind of be mindful of that. And also, as I'm sure a lot of community residents have seen or board members have seen as they've driven through town, there is some infrastructure improvements going on. And hopefully when we do eventually get back to school one day, the roads will be a lot smoother to ride on. That's all I had.
Okay, and Jim, can I ask you to pass on a message for me?
Sure.
I had promised Joe that I would look into who worked with Tom on our meter at the high school, who told us what meter to use, and it was Pat Patterson. I tried to get in touch with Joe over the past couple of days. I've been having some difficulty, so I'm sure you'll see him or talk to him before I will. Can you just let him know that Tom worked with Pat Patterson on that?
Sure, I'll shoot him an email. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, and if he has any other questions, reach back out to me, but
Sure.
that's what that was. That's great. Okay. Okay, thank you. The taxer liaison, any updates on that?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you.
One thing, Denise, remember we met on that house where Jim and I had talked with you. It was in Ondior. I believe the owners were Marks, their name was.
Right.
Whatever happened on that, and the law firm was considering doing a motion. Did we ever get anything?
I will have to look into that because as of right now, I haven't heard anything, but I'll reach out to Bill Duquette on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ned. Thank you, Denise. Okay, the West Point Community Council, we have not had a meeting yet. Community engagement, Frank?
So just a couple quick things. So we have the Community Coalition meeting, which is working on just raising awareness of issues of drugs and alcohol use in the community. We'll meet next week. We have a Narcan training actually next Saturday, the 10th. It's October 10th. The district's working with the Rotary Club and the Community Coalition of the Town of Highlands to do that Narcan training with ADAC. It is limited to 12 people because of social distance requirements. So I know that the flyer has been out on various Facebook pages and things like that. But if anybody is interested who is listening to this, if you want to send either me or Marissa an email, then we can connect you with the flyer and get that out there. And the last thing is, as one thing I mentioned about the county team is that put us in contact with resources. And one of those resources I had mentioned was our backpack program. Our backpack program will actually begin next week with our distribution. And I would love to thank the Town of Highlands Recreation Department for all you've done to continue the feeding program through the month of September. It has been a great service to the community. We went through June, and Aaron in the rec department, I'll say Aaron, picked it up on July 1st and carried the ball right to September. So thank you for partnering to help keep people fed. So,
Frank, let me jump in real quick and piggyback off that. Today we did about 4,100 pounds of food. And with that number brings us to about 42,000 for the summer. It's over 21 tons of food we gave out to the community.
Where do you get it?
Frank, when's the date for that Narcan meeting?
It's the 10th, Saturday the 10th, Ned, 10 a.m. at the intermediate school.
Thank you. Would the new Highland Falls librarian director be permitted to attend?
Anybody is permitted. Yeah, absolutely. Just have her shoot me an email, Ned.
Thank you.
Okay. I see Tom is back. I'm saying it carefully. Tom, can you please give us an update before you
I do apologize about the internet connection. I'm outside now with the phone in the air, my left foot up. Everything looks stable. So for the director's report, I'd like to put a shout out to Debbie Brand. She put together a nice little I don't want to say complaint form, but a method where the teachers can contact us directly about any discrepancies they may find, and to keep those lines of communication open. And for the facility committee, we didn't have a meeting yet on that, but listening to all Gus's questions, I'll be putting one of those together real soon.
Yeah, and when we lost you, I asked Denise if she could let you know that we would appreciate it if you could set one up soon.
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Ready?
Yes, I am, Denise. Do you want me to do it today, or you have your hotspot? Okay, good.
No, I got it. Use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following consent agenda as submitted by the Superintendent of Schools, number 2 to 22.
Motion?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do I have any questions on 2 through 22?
Number 12, the HVAC maintenance bid. There was only one bid, apparently. Does the amount of that bid exceed what we were paying last year for the same services?
Tom, I can't bring that up. I can't bring up board docs for some reason tonight.
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to read something to you, Denise or Tom?
Well, I want to know if Tom knows if that's less or more than from the current year. For some reason, I can't access any files right now.
Okay, so Tom, it's the TBS one.
Oh, I'll have to check in. I don't have none of that information in front of me.
Okay.
But I'll check and send notice to the board on that.
Thank you.
I think we should delete number 12 until we know the answer to that.
Okay, does the board want to do that? I'm not in favor of doing that. We need these services. So can anyone, who wants to
need them now.
hold this one?
That's proprietary though.
Yeah.
Who wants to hold it?
So I have the number.
Okay.
So last year's, the board approved TBS's contract at $27,252. This year, their base bid is this year that number $76.
So it went up by how much?
So a difference of, just let me find it again, and I apologize. That is not a great deal. That's under $1,000. It's about $800 difference.
Okay.
Was there more than one bid last year?
No.
No. I'm just looking at the bid doc from last year in board docs. No.
That's another reason why it should be taken off the agenda, in my opinion.
But Ned, if only one person is bidding.
We don't know whether it's realistic and fair with no
But
bid.
if that's the only person bidding, what are we supposed to do? We go through this in my job. If only one person
should stir the pot. I'm sure there are other entities who would be interested in bidding.
So,
Okay, Ned, it's in the paper. It's everywhere. They put out where they're required to put it out to get people to bid.
Tom, is this due to the proprietary nature of our system?
Yeah, and we bring that up. We bring that up each year. It's proprietary. Nobody else will bid. I mean, that's unless we ramp over to a whole new system, nobody else will bid. I mean, they bid, they won't be able to do absolutely nothing for us. They can't get in that proprietary system.
Didn't we talk about this last year?
Yeah.
It's ringing a bell now that he said that. We just
did.
have to remember that. Can we add that somewhere here in the verbiage so we remember it, that it is a proprietary? Because I think that makes us all feel a lot better.
Okay.
I'll add it to the minutes as well.
Thank you.
I'd like to vote on that one individually.
Absolutely. Now, but I still want to make sure that for whatever reason, because you had requested that it be removed. So is there anyone else who's in favor of it being removed from this this week? No, Gabe, no. Okay. So there's that. So we'll vote on number 12 separately. Are there any others that we want to vote on separately? Okay, so all in favor?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to clarify one thing in case there was a question. There might be question as to how are we appointing or why are we appointing drama? Well, because we're actually looking at a virtual show and it's going to be wonderful. So we want to just make sure that to the extent that we can support all of our kids in their programs, which is what we've said we were going to do, we're doing so. So I just wanted to put that out there so the board's aware of that's why that's on there.
Okay. So may I please get a vote on numbers 2 through 11 and 13 through 22? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. And then number 12, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
You're opposed. Okay, and Ned, can the reason why you're opposed, if it's a proprietary system?
I think we need to look at the system as a whole, whether we're going to be saddled with it, which raises questions for years to come. If it is, it is. But I'm not pleased with having a system that only one entity is going to service and therefore control the bidding process.
Motion carries, correct?
Correct.
Yes, wait, the motion carries. Hold on, though. Before I go into executive session, may I please ask for Robin, Mike, and Yashira to stay on with us for executive session for the first discussion item? Do you mind, Mike? Yashira and Robin. Got it. Okay. Okay, let me go back to board docs now. Here we go. Be it resolved that the Board of Education recesses into executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment history of a particular individual and matters made exempt under federal law FERPA, and to discuss collective negotiations under the Taylor Law with the Town of Highlands Teachers Association. The board will not return to open session to take action.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight.